Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code Mayo right now at Underdog Fantasy. Get yourself a deposit match of up to $250. Tons of best ball drafts going on Underdog right now. We'll be talking through some best ball ADPs, division odds, win totals, coaching changes, player changes, our expectations for those teams on the AFC West divisional preview. Today, we've already done both the Souths in the NFC and AFC, so check out Mayo Media Network and the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast feed to go get those. We got rankings coming very soon. Really leaning back into football. Hope you're enjoying. Share the show around and tune back in. All right, Jake Ciely from theathletic.com on the line with me. Let's jump right into it. The Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champs, are up first. They, unsurprisingly, are the favorites to win the AFC West this year at minus 230, so you'd have to bet $230 to win 100 on the Chiefs winning this division. Their win total this year is 11.5, is basically where they've been each of the past Mahomes years, it does seem. No changes in the coaching staff at all, and I guess the two biggest things to really kind of hammer down on here, they bring in Xavier Worthy, they bring in Hollywood Brown, and we don't really know what's going on with Rashee Rice. Correct?
Right. Yep. Correct. We still don't know. I think there's the assumption, and then there's been a lot of floating of 4 to 6 games being the assumption, but nobody knows for real. I mean, it could be, for how long does this take at this point? Could end up being like 2 or 3 games.
Or it could be next year.
Because they get that too. And so, yeah, nobody knows as of right now.
Although, based on what I've seen, I thought he was going to jail once the reports broke.
So did I. I don't know. I thought this was like, hey, potentially he's not playing football in 2024 because he's not on like Earth outside of prison. Like, yeah. I'm trying to think of the word. Like, he's not a free man. Put it that way.
Yeah, and he's actually the lowest right now of all the skill players on the Chiefs being drafted at Underdog. But he's still wide receiver 43, pick number 72. If you watch our NFC South show, that is higher than Alvin Kamara at the moment.
Yeah, and it's not bad value because what if he only gets 1 or 2 games?
It might be, but now we have all these other guys who are on the team, like with Hollywood Brown there and with Xavier Worthy. How do you think this pecking order shakes down? Because you still have Travis Kelce.
You do. And I think it's clearly Travis Kelce and then the wide receivers. So I actually, as of right now, I've been very much in on Hollywood Brown because if healthy, the Xavier Worthy, the excitement is Xavier Worthy is, I mean, if you watch the NFC South show, I'm about to make the Kendra Miller to Jamal Williams player comparison. Xavier Worthy is, for all intents and purposes, very much like Marquise Brown. So if healthy, they sign Brown. Who's more likely to continue to work in the NFL? The one who's never played in the NFL or the one who's done it before, dealt with some injuries, has been disappointing? Look, there's people remember in fantasy that he's been disappointed because of where they took him, but it was injuries, quarterback related. I'm not saying he's a definitive bounce back and you should get him everywhere, but just because one is already in the NFL, we project Xavier Worthy to be good in the NFL, but why it would put it this way. If you're going to make the argument for Jamal Williams, I feel like you're with me on this and going to make the argument that I'm making for Hollywood Brown.
Well, I mean, the difference is Jamal Williams is being undrafted at the moment, and
sure,
and Hollywood Brown is receiver 32, pick number 51.
Right, but if Hollywood Brown is 100% healthy, I mean, there's a big question of who he is at this point. But if he's 100% healthy, Rashee Rice is suspended for 4+ games. That's underdrafted on Hollywood Brown. This is somebody who's finished top 15, top 20 before. Granted, we're talking about wide receivers competing for what could be a very frustrating year like we've seen 2 years ago, where it's just a different guy every single week and you didn't really want any of them where they were going. I'm okay with Hollywood Brown at 32. And if he starts pushing inside close to the top 25, I'd be out. I'm okay on Rashee Rice at that pick. I have a feeling, where is Xavier Worthy? I have a feeling he's going to be the one that I'm out on his cost.
He is wide receiver 37, pick number 62. So here's how the wide receiver order goes down. And this ranges from pick number, we'll start at pick number 40 overall. Because George Pickens is wide receiver 28, pick number 41 overall. It's Pickens, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, then Keenan Allen, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, then Xavier Worthy. HBO's Rome is the next wide receiver off the board at pick number 66. Then Addison, Ladd McConkey, DeAndre Hopkins, Brian Thomas, Rashee Rice, then Deontay Johnson, Christian Watson, Keon Coleman, JSN, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton. I feel like all these guys are wild. It's not that they can't be awesome. If one of them emerges as the guy, one of them is going to be awesome. But with this team, like, even to look at their backups, like, Justin Watson will have 5 touchdowns this year, it feels like. He might have like 30 catches, 5 touchdowns, and like 400 yards. But there's just enough variables on this team where I don't see any of these receivers being worth it.
So that list that you started naming wide receivers, everybody after Xavier Worthy, because you stopped naming wide receivers, every single one of them I would take over Xavier Worthy. Every single player from behind Xavier Worthy. Even Cortland Sutton.
Even JSN?
All of them.
Curtis Samuel? He's next.
No.
Lockett?
Yeah, why? Even if Lockett only does what he did last year, it was a disappointment because of who Lockett was. But
no,
even if he does what he does last year,
Lockett is perpetually undervalued for what he does because everyone just thinks.
But he actually finished behind his ADP last year for the first time in like 5 years.
Was it substantial?
Oh, he was inside. I think he was inside the top 25 wide receivers last year. Top 30
in ADP.
I know he finished behind. No, he did. I just saw it the other day. He finished behind where he was drafted for like the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, because I mean, I had him on a bunch of teams. I feel like I got him late, and he was like a pretty good wide receiver 3 flex guy when I needed him.
He was, but we're talking about somebody who for years had been a wide receiver 2 that nobody was ever taking as a wide receiver 2. And then he finally got pushed up to that fringe wide receiver 2 or 3 last year, but didn't finish there for the first time.
So
anyway, point being.
So let's say Rice is out 8 games or whatever it is. So the first 8 games of the season, you have Xavier Worthy. Like, you would still want him in that like Jameson Williams range?
I would take Jameson Williams every single time, but yeah, in that range, I'm okay with it then if we knew Rashee Rice was out.
So Williams is going at pick number 83, and Worthy is pick number 62. So it's like 2 rounds later. I think people just get caught up in if he ends up being the guy, he's a top 10 receiver. I just don't see that upside for any of these guys.
And that's the biggest issue that I go back. That's what we started this whole conversation with. It's after Travis Kelce, and their biggest reason Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and it's not just that Tyreek Hill's an elite talent, but to go back to the situation, the reason Tyreek Hill worked with Travis Kelce and they were so good together is because you remember, they combined for 55 to 60% of the team's target share every single year. Okay, Travis Kelce's getting his 25 to 30 again this year. Are you telling me that even if we knew Rashee Rice was out for the entire season, that Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy is going to get 25% of the team target share? No. There'll probably be more around 20. And that's still really good, but that's not a top 12 wide receiver.
And I would argue, would it be 20% if that? Like, yes, maybe Kelce, now that he has a backup dancer career going on tour all summer, maybe he just his head's not so much in the game. I still believe in Travis Kelce. I still think that he's tight end 1 or tight end 2. I get the idea of drafting Laporta above Kelce just based on the upside, but I think pure safety wise, you just know what Kelce is going to do, even if it's a step back from what he's always done. Yeah. Where we don't know that with Laporta, technically. I mean, we're all projecting that he's going to be great, but if he ended up tight end number 5 this year, like, I wouldn't be super stunned at that. Whereas Kelce will be fine until he's not fine, and then he'll be out of the league, it feels like.
And then he'll be done and retired. Yeah. Kelce was still number 1 in fantasy points per game last year.
Yeah, people forget that.
TJ Hawkinson was actually 2 in front of Laporta.
When is Hawkinson expected back? Week what? Do we know?
I think from the sound of everything I've seen, they haven't said. It sounds like mid-season. It sounds like half the year.
All right. I can deal with that, I suppose. But I just worry about, it's not that I worry about the other guys being good in the receiving core here. It's that I worry about them just like we talked about Taysom Hill with the Saints, that I worry about Mecole Hardman scoring 4 touchdowns. I worry about 2 Kadarius Toney games. Hey, here's a Sky Moore game. Hey, here's Justin Watson for absolutely no reason. Yeah. Hey, Blake Bell caught 2 touchdowns this week. Like, if you're taking away the bottom line from a lot of these receivers where they can't score 10 touchdowns or hell, even 7 touchdowns, I don't think the volume is there enough, even if, let's say, Rice misses the whole year. That Rice started to emerge as that guy towards the end of the year. This we can acknowledge, but now they brought in 2 other guys to take away from him, plus all the other guys still remain. That it's just a situation where just draft Patrick Mahomes if you want these guys.
Yeah, there you go. Buy the cake, not the icing. But to your point in this whole thing is that's why I'm okay on Hollywood Brown at 32, because let's go back years. And my biggest problem with Hollywood Brown is the same thing he was then, that pretty much are the Chiefs receivers now. I'm going to get 6 amazing games. I'm going to get 6 that are like, okay, those are pretty good. I could use those as wide receiver 4. And then you're going to get the rest where it's just like, God, I can't believe I put him in my lineup for that wonderful 1 catch for 23 yards. And that's fine when he's your wide receiver 3. That's perfectly, even if you went wide receiver heavy and he he was your 2 and then you backed him right back up with another wide receiver right there that was more consistent, I'd be kind of okay with that. So I'm okay at 32. That's why I brought up the 25, because now you're starting to talk about top 24, 25, and even back then, despite the fact Hollywood Brown finished like wide receiver 18, it was that roller coaster of why I didn't want him on a lot of teams because of how my teams were being structured, especially in seasonal. Best ball, underdog, whole different story because you can more easily get away with it. And that's why I like Hollywood Brown, because he will definitively just win some weeks for you if he's okay, if he's 100%. But if he starts pushing towards that top 25, now you not only want him to win those weeks, you want some more consistency across the board. And he's more like late career Deshaun Jackson at this point. So Xavier Worthy, kind of okay there. But if we get word on Rashee Rice that he's definitively missing 6 games, Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy are both likely to go up to points where they're not going to make sense cost-wise.
Do you worry that Hollywood Brown has cracked 1,000 yards receiving once in his career? It was 3 years ago, and he had almost 150 targets.
No, because it comes down to I'm just playing the injury risk game. I think it's part of this. It's James Conner's old teammate. It's like I know what I'm going to get when he's healthy. That's if you want to stay away from him, that's the risk. It's just the Hollywood Brown just cannot stay healthy.
He can't, but I mean, you would know this better than I would because this isn't really my forte. But in terms of catch rate and separation, or maybe it's the quality of target, because he had some huge target games last year. So he had 5 in double digits a year ago, and 12 targets, 6 catches, 11 targets, 4 catches, 10 targets, 4 catches. Now, a lot of that could come with the quality of the quarterback play that was going on in Arizona, sure. But even with Kyler back, he still wasn't even that good.
But that's the thing, too, is Kyler has never been the best deep ball thrower of this for accuracy purposes, for making these catchables. So I'm not saying, Patrick Mahomes is going to fix everything, but it should objectively help.
Yes.
Yeah, it should help. And you're talking about somebody who, on a healthy season, 13 yards of reception, 14 yards of reception, the touchdown upside. So I get the concern. But again, that's why I keep going back to. Wide receiver 32? Yes. But it's very easily. Us doing this show, other people maybe jumping on board, and all of a sudden, you know what happens? People get talked about on Twitter for 1 week, and now they're gone up and cost 2 full rounds. So Marquise Brown jumps. There was a few names in front of him that would be yeah, I'm okay with it. And then there was a few names you mentioned in front of him where I'm definitively I would take over Hollywood Brown. So I'm not moving him up that much, even if I knew Rashee Rice is out.
Patrick Mahomes, QB number 4, ADP number 48. I feel like I've been out on Mahomes as a fantasy quarterback each of the past few years because I don't think the Chiefs care about the regular season at all anymore. They're like the old school Patriots, towards the end of their run. They're just going to be, they'll have to play well when they need to play well. They'll probably struggle in September, look kind of shaky, and then oh yeah, of course they'll fucking get it back together.
So 2 years ago was obviously that best season for Mahomes, but I don't want to call him milquetoast, but he just feels like if you want to guarantee, you just want to guarantee production and play it safe, just take Patrick Mahomes. That's who he is. Quarterback 4, sure. Quarterback 5, whatever. But you told me Anthony Richardson stays healthy, which is a huge risk, no question about it. But if you told me...
Yeah, okay. So at this point, how they play, because Mahomes isn't going to run until they're in dire...
Oh, yeah, Anthony Richardson would finish 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly. If Anthony Richardson played all 18 games, he'd probably be quarterback 2. Three at worst behind Hurts and Lamar if they have regular... Or I guess Josh Allen, too. So, yeah, he's in that running with those guys. So, and he would definitely be ahead of Mahomes, who's not going to run till the playoffs, because why would you? And I do think that if Mahomes gets banged up at all during the course of the season, and they're already out to a lead, in which I don't think is a super strong division this time around, I could see them playing Carson Wentz for 2 games. Get healthy, man. Don't worry about it.
That's a legit concern as well. And actually, to go back to that, I would actually lay the money on the 230 to win this division, because the division, there's no way, unless Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, there's no way they're not winning this division. And to your point in that aspect is, you know what? Patrick Mahomes, who he is at quarterback, he's Joe Mixon at running back. If you want RB11 because you just know he's going to do it, and he's just going to produce, and it's going to be nice and solid across the entire year and consistent, draft him. But it's kind of yeah, where's the excitement? Where's the potential league-winning play? And I guess you could argue 2 years ago with those numbers, but I just don't feel like they need him to be that. I don't think they want him to be that at this point, to your point, as in we're already deep into Patrick Mahomes' career. Not that he can't play for another 10 years, but you don't need him to go throw 400 yards and 3 touchdowns to win a game.
I think that you could win fantasy championships with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. It's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
I would just spend a pick on a quarterback either earlier or later than where he's currently going.
Yes. That's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Pacheco's a good pick.
Pacheco is a good pick. Pacheco's also, I think, what is his reception rate? Like 90%? This dude just catches everything thrown his way. It's not like he's getting super high volume, but he catches anytime something's thrown his way.
Yes, and to take a look at him right now, he might be the best value, weirdly enough, of all of the Chiefs because he's running back number 11, pick number 47.
Yeah, that's actually a really nice value for him. What's the only question, I guess, would be my question back to you. Like, what's the only thing stopping Pacheco from being a good pick? Health?
I guess
Because he missed time last year, but I guess.
Yeah, that's a concern with that's a concern with every running back.
He's got 63 targets, and he's caught 57 of them in his 2 years in the NFL.
It's pretty good. And there's no Jarek anymore.
True. Really good.
Who
can't go to Jarek anymore.
Yeah. Did anyone go to Jarek, or did he just retire? He was tired.
I think he's still out there. He's still out there.
He was tired of being Anderhurst every single year until he wasn't. Then he won Super Bowls. But he was another guy who was a thorn in the side of these receivers, by the way.
Yes.
Jarek would just randomly score red zone touchdowns.
Yep. He would actually randomly run for one, too, sometimes. So that's actually, so the argument for the positive side of the wide receivers is not having him involved anymore. And I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to bounce back to be any kind of serious threat. They really didn't do anything in the backfield where you would say, oh, there's a new Jarek to worry about either.
Let's move to the Chargers. They are the second favorites in this division. They are going off at plus 320. So according to the sports books, that the Chargers have a better chance of winning the AFC West than the Saints do the NFC South, which I think is laughable because I have no idea. They have Herbert. That's a positive thing. And to take a look at their win total for the year, where are we at here? I had them. Now I lost them. Stupid Chargers. Already causing me problems. You know how this is going to turn out for me. This is a very pro-Chargers show, as people know, if they watch the spread pick stuff. But, of course, they're not coming up. Can't even find them on the board anymore. I'm guessing it's 8.5. Oh, here we are. It is 8.5. And everyone is betting the over of 8.5. Harbaugh's their coach now. So this team is going to look nothing like it did. No more Mike Williams, no more Keenan Allen. Herbert is returning. They have the Ravens backfield. They signed Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Isaiah Spiller is still there. They have Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson, and Ladd McConkey as their starting trio of wide receivers, and Will Disley and Hayden Hurst and Parham as their tight ends. Like, who is going to be, like, Ladd McConkey is the one who's being drafted, but do we even think this team throws?
They will. I mean, I know you're being tongue-in-cheek by that, but, everybody's talking about Greg Roman, and you're on paper, it kind of looks like, hey, we're just trying to be the Ravens. But guess what? You have Justin Herbert. You don't have Lamar Jackson. They are going to run. That's basically the Harbaugh-Roman situation here. But even so, we're not talking about a team that's only going to pass the ball 400 times. And it'll still be 500s, but is it going to be 6? Probably not. I forget my projections off the top of my head, but I feel like they landed in like the 540 range, which is still enough for Justin Herbert to be valuable. But Justin Herbert was already at, even before these coaching changes became official, I think we talked about it. If not, it was on my show with Meany. We're already out on Justin Herbert as a QB1 just because what happened the last 2 years. First 2 years of his career, great, looked like he was on track. These last 2 years, just not there. And part of it, you could argue, are weapons, whatever it might be. But now you are in a run-heavier offense, clearly run-heavier, and you do have concerns. And then the question mark, who is the one? Who is the two? Even if we knew it, I'm sure we're about to talk through that. Justin Herbert's a mid QB2 at this point. Also because you're talking about he's not going to run a ton.
We talked about cheap stacks with other teams. Like, this is a cheap stack right now with Herbert going as QB 17, pick number 133. McConkey is the highest of all Chargers at wide receiver 40, pick number 70. Palmer is going at pick 107, wide receiver 55. And then Quentin Johnson is wide receiver 68 at pick 150. Brendan Rice is actually going as well at pick number 216, wide receiver number 93. So you can piece that together. Parham even after that at this point, if he's even being drafted. But they just have too many guys, and none of them seem any good.
Yeah, and where's J.K. Dobbins going on the run side of things?
Edwards is going at running back 36. Dobbins is running back number 55. Is Dobbins going to be ready for week 1?
Even if what if I told you right now J.K. Dobbins is 100% by week 4? I'm taking J.K. Dobbins there. I'm all day long.
You know I love Gus Edwards.
I know you do. He's Gus Bus. He's just going to score those touchdowns. Hopefully it can translate. And I'm sure Kamani Vidal's going too, right? Vidal's getting drafted because everybody got excited about it after he got drafted in the NFL by them.
No, he's not.
No. That's actually surprising to me. There must be too many dynasty things I pay attention to right after the draft. But to go back to the wide receivers, I think if we're sitting here as of today and you told me Ladd McConkey was number 1, I mean, you're talking about me as one if not like one of the biggest guys on Ladd McConkey. But even saying that, and why I'm not being like, I told you guys after the draft. This is coming, I'm presenting this as, I basically said this in the article, because he's, the next player I'm about to talk about is in the top 5 potential breakouts. Said, even from the McConkey guy, there is a possibility where Quentin Johnston does become the number 1 this year. The thing that I think is so strange about Johnston is we sat here, the NFL world, we sat here this time last year and said, Quentin Johnston's raw. He needs to improve his catching. He needs to improve his route running. He needs to improve his contested ball catching ability at the NFL level to really catch on. And then all those things didn't happen as a rookie. And people are like, well, he's done. He sucks. Like, we legit laid out the concerns. The concerns manifested themselves, and everybody's just done with Quentin Johnston. And that's weird to me because he's still a very projectable talent. He's still an athletic freak. Those concerns can be fixed. I mean, you'd clean up your route running. And here's the interesting thing is Keenan Allen actually had a higher drop rate percentage-wise than Quentin Johnston. Johnston's drops were magnified because they were island games and big plays, like touchdowns he left on the field. It kind of goes back to the one that played for, who's the tight end that played for the Lions that dropped the ball all the time, and then he finally became somewhat good. I'm having a brain fart on who it was. Oh, come on, Pat. I feel like you would have had this one ready.
Not Hawkinson?
It was no. Eric Ebron.
Oh yeah.
Eric Ebron. Yeah, remember all he does is drops passes, and then it fixed, and he actually became pretty damn good. The things with Johnston are fixable. Whether it happens is a big question. I would still take McConkey as a 1, but I think there's a world where Johnston is even the 2 and pushes past Palmer. Palmer's a fine player, but I think he profiles as a number 3. So I'm saying all to say is I am in on this stack because of the cost. You're not paying anything for any of these guys, Justin Herbert even included, where if Herbert does throw 550 times, we do get a clear 1 and 2 in McConkey and Johnston. They are all values.
So you like Johnson the best at pick 150 of this group, it seems, value-wise.
Pure value, yes. Yeah. He's essentially free.
I can get on board with that. I think that's a good take. I don't know what to make of this team.
And I still like Dobbins at that price too.
Yeah, Dobbins he's not free, but he is way down the board.
Yeah.
Let's move to Vegas. Their win total is 6.5. Yeah, 6.5 is their win total, juiced to the over a little bit, 9-1 to win the AFC West. They bring back Antonio Pierce from their interim to full-time head coach. Luke Getsy, who was the Bears offensive coordinator the last 2 years, is their new offensive coordinator. And it looks like Gardner Minshew is going to be their starter. Do you think
yesterday we got Aiden O'Connell. So
yeah.
You're going to give him a chance. I think it's good. I mean, what we know about these 2 quarterbacks, it would say it's got to be Minshew, but maybe they just hope that they fell into something with Aiden O'Connell. They don't have to go to the quarterback pool next year. I don't think anybody believes that's possible, but that's funny. You bring up the win total, and I actually think if we were told today Gardner Minshew is the quarterback to start the year, and they're not even going to screw around with him. He is the quarterback for the entire season unless he got hurt. I actually think the win total would be higher. I think the win total is based a lot on what if it's Aiden O'Connell.
Maybe. Fantasy-wise, the only guy who's really being drafted highly is Devontae Adams. He's now down to wide receiver number 13. Do you like Devontae Adams or Drake London?
Drake London is what, 12? 11?
He's 10.
I forget. 10? Oh, Adams.
I mean, it's not a substantial difference in their picks. There's like 4 spots.
No. But we're talking about somebody projecting to jump into that range, and we're talking about Devontae Adams, who just did it again last year, just because he just keeps getting targets. Now, of course, Antonio Pierce in this offense, we're concerned that this is going to run more, especially with how many touches he gave Zamir White down there. He averaged almost 23 touches a game at the end of the year, more so in the running game, obviously, than the passing game. That all being said, even with more run heavy, Devontae Adams is just going to absorb targets, no matter who's at quarterback. I would say if you told me Aiden O'Connell was definitively the starter week 1, I'd probably be less excited at Adams and say, fine, it's a toss-up with London just because the cost is a little bit higher. But going down this team, I mean, it's just Adams and Myers are just – this is to go back to what we were talking about with the Chiefs. Is there any world, even if Brock Bowers hits from day one, is there any world where Adams and Myers don't get 50% of the targets?
That's what I was thinking. I was surprised Jacoby Myers was wide receiver 60 and pick number 120. The guy scores the first touchdown in every game he plays.
Now that he's off the Patriots, yeah.
Yeah, I think he had 5 of them last year, first touchdown hits, which is really nice. I've always liked Myers, but this division is very difficult for me to figure out after the Chiefs. And it just kind of feels like a fantasy dead zone. Like if you can pick right, you're going to be rewarded. And I would want to just try to pick off the values, like be it Quentin Johnston or be it Jacoby Myers. Like Brock Bowers is going as tight end 10, pick number 96.
Makes no sense. No sense at all.
Like Michael Myers still on this team. He's tight end number 30, but he's still being drafted. Zamir White is running back number 23, pick number 90. Like maybe that works out great.
I don't mind that one.
I mean, Alexander Madison's on the team too. That guy's the perpetual thorn in everyone's side.
Yeah, Alexander Madison.
He's not the starter now.
I know. So look, what? So we don't get 23 touches a game for Zamir White. We only get 18. And maybe because of where if you told me Zamir White was RB15, I'd be like, but outside RB20, like not even in the top 20, I'll take that all day long. Antonio Pierce is going to feed the living hell out of him.
All right, so fantasy guys that you would like actively go to target, it seems like it's Zamir White, Jacoby Myers?
Pretty much. That's about it. I can't believe that Brock Bowers pick, honestly. And that's even with Michael Mayer losing passing snaps to Harrison Bryant at the end of the year. But still, I think that everybody's going back to last year. They're getting excited about what happened with the rookie tight ends. And they're like, oh, Brock Bowers. Now, granted, Brock Bowers is a generational tight end prospect, but that doesn't mean, like, you go back to last year's draft, Laporta wasn't even the top tight end. You and I had that conversation last year, and we kind of talked about all the tight ends that were going in that one range, and then, like, why not just take? And one of them was actually, why not just take Sam Laporta later than where the others were going? There's no guarantee that fantasy-wise, Brock Bowers is even the best tight end from this class this year or next.
All right. Any other Raiders thoughts? Because I don't have a ton.
No.
Trey Tucker, your guy?
Michael Gallup's now on this team.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah, you missed the Michael Gallup one.
I did.
He's going to catch like 4 random touchdowns this year and tick us off when it's not Devontae. Devontae Adams is going to have like 3 for 50. Jacoby Myers is going to have like nothing, and Michael Gallup's going to have 4 for 110 and a touchdown.
Worth noting that average ADP for quarterbacks on this team, none are listed. Minshew or AOC are not going inside the top 250.
I think part of that is also, laughs aside, like, are any of the Broncos? This is what we're about to talk about them, because I think it's the uncertainty to know who's going to be the quarterback for the entire season.
Well, let's move to Denver. Who do you think is going to be the quarterback the entire season? I just assume it's going to be Bo Nix.
I was going to say, if you're the Broncos, you hope it's Bo Nix. You hope Bo Nix does not get to the week 1 of the season and be like, couldn't beat out Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson, because that's going to be bad. If that's the scenario, Broncos fans should be and will be in full panic mode, because you tell me Bo Nix couldn't beat them out, then you're in trouble. So it should be Bo Nix.
And what do we think that does is that check down city, do you think? Because we do know that in a Sean Payton offense, that the pass catching running back is always going to have a ton of value. And we thought that it would probably translate to Jamal Williams, because we saw some decent Jamal Williams receiving games last year. But Javonte Williams, sorry. Out of my mind now, talking about all the Williams. But Jaleel McLaughlin does seem more like that guy.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because my top 5 running back breakouts, Jaleel McLaughlin was number 5. He was on that list. The only reason he's not higher is because they have so many options in this backfield. But on a per-touch basis, best running back on this backfield. Also running the ball. He was actually the best running back in this backfield. Now, granted, Javonte Williams was coming off the injury, and some of these running backs take an extra year when you have a ligament tear like that. So I don't think Javonte is completely out of the equation. They still have P. Ryan as of today, but there's a lot of floated rumors out there that like he might get cut and be the odd man out for the fact that they drafted Audric Estime. But Estime is between the tackles. He's a bowling ball. Like I don't think he's going to be used much in the passing game. So if you told me P. Ryan was gone, still going to be on McLaughlin because of what you said. I think if you look at Bo Nix, if he is the quarterback, for us, what we should expect fantasy-wise, you bring up the Sean Payton thing, but it's kind of like a Derek Carr, Andy Dalton on a Sean Payton team. It's kind of like, 3,800 yards, maybe throws 23, 24 touchdowns, but is going to throw to the backfield probably 15 to 20% of the time.
They are 18-1 to win the division. Their win total is only 5.5. I just to think about it on the surface, I wouldn't expect them to be that bad.
The win total, the division, I wouldn't touch.
No, of course not. But 5.5, like it's lower than the Raiders. I thought they'd be better than the Raiders.
I think the biggest problem is everybody's scared of the quarterback situation. Put it this way: if I told you Bo Nix didn't win the job by week 1, would you want to bet the over on the 5.5?
Probably not.
So there you go. I think they're factoring that in.
That's fair. The highest Bronco being drafted on Underdog right now. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy. Get yourself the deposit bonus of up to $250. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 49, pick number 92.
I'm okay with that. Finished much better last year, and I know he's going to Bo Nix, likely.
Is that big of a drop-off? Wilson was not as bad as I think that people think about Russell Wilson last year, but he only had 2 throws. Dump off to the backfield or bomb it. That was it.
And that's what I was going to go to, is actually if you look at Cortland Sutton's catch rate from last year, it was pretty miserable. It was one of the worst for wide receivers inside the top 30. I actually think he might have even been worse when I was talking about late in the season last year. But that's the point. Is like it wasn't he wasn't out there catching 70% of his passes. Close to I think it was targets. It was 55%. So even if you get Bo Nix or whoever it might be, only completing 55% of the passes, I think the biggest concern is the touchdowns come down because he was buoyed by touchdowns, but 900 yards again, and so he only gets 5 or 6 touchdowns. That's still better than where he's being drafted. So that's why I'm in on it. If Cortland Sutton was going top 35, 40, I'd be a little bit more hesitant, but at that value, I think he's there. And then the kind of jump ahead where you're going next, to go back to my breakout wide receivers column I was talking about, Marvin Mims is in there as a conversation. I'm not guaranteed. And look, I'm not guaranteeing it. Similar to Quentin Johnston, he had some concerns of coming out of college. Unlike Quentin Johnston, he wasn't a first-round pick, so this isn't like, oh, we got to make this happen. And now they drafted Troy Franklin, who is, oh, by the way, Bo Nix. Familiarities there, and they might just connect right out of the gate. And Franklin has that downfield ability. And that's all coming from somebody who's not the biggest Bo Nix fan, not the biggest Troy Franklin fan, being me. And I don't think Mims is a guarantee, but you're talking about somebody who just had that second-round draft capital last year. People thought highly of him. And if he ends up being the number 2, where is he going right now? Wide receiver, I'm guessing 70s?
Yes, so Sutton's wide receiver 49. Franklin is going ahead of Mimsy. Franklin is wide receiver number 77, which is pick number 173. Mims is wide receiver 79, 177. And then Josh Reynolds, who is also on this team, is wide receiver number 91, pick 215. You know who is back this year, though? Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick. I knew you were going to bring up Tim Patrick. When healthy,
love Tim
he always
Patrick.
does something. Always does something when he's healthy.
Always feels.
Can we just get him a healthy season?
Sure. I feel like he must have one of the best contested ball rates of the past 4 years. Just throw to him in coverage, he'll come down with it.
I want to pull that up. I'll do that after the show, and I'll tweet you if I find out that number.
Thank you. Then, Dulcich is back. He's fun, week to week, but he's wide tight end number 29. Javonte Williams is going as running back number 31. That's pick number 110. McLaughlin is running back 48, pick number 153.
All day long. Love it.
Do you take both of them?
Don't hate it. I mean, what kind of cost is that really hurting you with?
Well, I guess there's the opportunity cost to have a better running back that if you could pick one and you pick right, then you're doing much better.
Yeah, you can make that argument a lot of times too, and say I'm going to take 2 backups in this range, and then if they break free, then oh look, I won out twice. But kind of goes back to my argument about the Panthers. At that cost, it's not prohibitive of your team to get both. I mean, honestly, there's a world where Javonte Williams is RB20 and McLaughlin's RB28, and they just kind of end up being values across the board and better in a best ball underdog format than it is in seasonal. Seasonal, like I get it. Seasonal, I'd be a little bit more off of it because even if they both finished as RB3s, that means a lot of those weeks in there, they probably weren't that valuable to your lineup. And if you look down your roster, they should have cracked it. But in a best ball format, I don't have any problem with those costs.
I think just with all the knowledge that we have at hand and how this team could shake out, let's say Bo Nix is the quarterback. Their win total is 5.5. They're not expected to be very good. Their defense was better after getting 70 posted on them by the Dolphins the rest of the season. But let's say they play from behind or play a lot of close games. That probably means they have to pass a little bit more. You think about check down city. If McLaughlin is going to be the pass catching running back like we think that he is, not to say that Williams isn't going to get catches, he will. But if that's going to be the primary role for him, especially if P. Ryan is gone, that's just the route that I would take, especially going 50 picks later.
And I completely, that's why I said all day long, but I'm not out on Javonte Williams at that cost.
And I test why. McLaughlin, I have no idea what his actual speed is, but his in-game speed feels like he's one of the fastest guys in the NFL. The way he makes people miss and gets there.
So if you remember I'm trying to think, was it the pass reception to the right? Well, he was going left to right on the
And it was the one where he cut it low and like kind of tipped it to himself.
And they just
against
took
the
off.
Browns, I think.
I think it was. There was one against the Bengals too. And one against the Bengals I think is the one I'm trying to remember. But anyway, your point there, he looks faster in the NFL than people thought he was coming out of college and tested. So you're talking about that on paper. Like Javonte Williams just might not ever get back his top end speed because of the injury. All these things are pointing towards Jaleel McLaughlin is a terrific value. And what I was going to go to is if P. Ryan does get cut, I think they're both going to jump. And the problem is if Javonte Williams does jump, similar to the Hollywood Brown point, is like, I'm okay where he is now. He jumps a round or two, I'm out. And it's just all Jaleel McLaughlin.
Well, P. Ryan's not even being drafted right now, and Esme is.
Yeah, but it's an extra factor that people are waiting to clear up.
Sure. Bo Nix is quarterback 30. Any interest with him?
I mean, I don't even like Bo Nix, but yes. Like, quarterback 30, why not?
I mean, but he's going ahead of both Raiders quarterbacks.
Yeah, but he should be the starter. There's the difference. Is even if Aiden O'Connell is the starter from day one or it's Gardner Minshew, at some point, it's probably going to reverse anyway because they're both not that good. Like, Gardner Minshew wins it, they're going to be like, all right, you had a 4-interception game. Let's give Aiden O'Connell another chance. Conversely, Aiden O'Connell wins and he looks like garbage for 3 weeks. Well, we might as well go back to Gardner Minshew. If Bo Nix wins from week one, and talk about it as an NFL organizational perspective. Bo Nix is the starter. They announced week one. He is not going to not be the starter unless it's 4 or 5 miserable games on the road. Like, they're looking at him as potentially the future quarterback. So unless it's a situation like maybe like a Justin Fields where it's just like, he is so awful, we need to like have him step away so his mind can get right. I just don't see him not being the quarterback.
Can't wait till we talk about the AFC North. It's great. Fields, do you play Fields at quarterback thinking he'll get 2 kick return touchdowns a game?
No.
Maybe a punt return touchdown in that, maybe a trick play or two. So it's funny, like going through all these teams, I think the Chargers are eventually going to be good under Harbaugh. I don't think it's going to be this season. I think he needs to improve their defense too much already. So I like their under. I don't think the Raiders are any good, so I take their under. I would take the over of both 5.5, which is plus 105 right now.
Yeah.
So you have to bet 100 to win 105. I would even think about the over 6.5 at 2-1. Just predicated on the fact they might split with the Chargers and split with the and split with the Raiders, or maybe sweep one of them. Then you're kind of off to the races a little bit.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule for the entire year because to see like the other divisions they play.
And they'll backdoor into a win at Mile High against a team who's just not ready to play in altitude. That'll happen.
Yeah, my only hesitation. So here you have good and bad. It's funny that we talked about this today. So the AFC West plays the NFC South. So you do get Carolina in there, and then the Saints,
Tampa
Bucks,
and
Falcons.
Oh, do the Falcons go to Denver?
Yes,
that's a win for Denver. It'll happen, and everyone will be on Atlanta as road favorites. It won't work out.
I was going to say on the flip side of it, they have to play the AFC North. So they have to play Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati. That's rough.
Yeah,
they might not win a single game in there.
I don't need them to go 13-4 here. I need them to go.
No, I'm just saying
7-10.
7, and so the 2-1 is at 6.5.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. At Seattle to start, not giving them that one.
That could, but
Pittsburgh.
hold on, that could be a win.
Could be, but
That's not. It's not like they're playing at Baltimore. Like against Seattle. Seattle could be good. They could be bad.
Would you even give that a 50-50 shot though?
No. They'll be underdogs. It's at Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, I did the odds probably like a month ago now. I'm guessing they're like 4-point dogs, 5-point dogs. Maybe they're more than that. I don't think that Seattle is going to be great. Like they're
so Pittsburgh at home, at Tampa Bay, at Jets.
Pittsburgh could be a win. Like that's not
Tampa Bay.
That's not.
It wouldn't be shocked if they beat Tampa Bay. Wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Jets. Vegas is at home. Then the Chargers at home. They get back-to-back those. At the Saints, home to Carolina. That should be a win. So this is bad.
Hold on,
2 weeks in a row at both.
Denver is a 4.5-point underdog at Seattle, so their win probability is like 40%.
Okay. They do have
that
at
happens,
Baltimore, at Kansas City in back-to-back weeks, by the way.
Yeah. I expect them to lose a lot of games. I'm not saying
I know.
Denver Super Bowl here.
So Atlanta at home, at Vegas, Cleveland at home, bye week. They have a week 14 bye. Indy at home, at Chargers, at Cincy, home to Kansas City. Basically, when they get to the last 2 games, they better have their wins by that point.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, maybe over 6.5 isn't really the look. It's just I do think that Sean Payton
that's not
kind of found something with them in the second half last year, and he got rid of a lot of the dead weight that he didn't want there. This will look like more of his team this year.
And going back to something that might have gotten glossed over by a lot of people listening or watching is the defense. People just remembered that freaking Dolphins game, but you go back and yes, we are choosing the argument here, but there's something to be said that like I don't know what clicked. I don't know if it was just like holy crap, we got embarrassed, but that defense was statistically in some areas top 10 the rest of the season. And it wasn't like that was week 14.
No, I agree. Like they had the back-to-back weeks where they got absolutely shellacked, and then they were better.
Yeah, much better.
Like if you throw, I mean, I would be curious to know, like if you throw out their 2 best defensive performances of the year and worst 2.
And 2 worst.
I mean, that's how I like to look at a lot of this stuff. Like, what do they normally do? Because you're going to have outliers either way.
Yeah, I mean, well,
I'm not
if
saying
you look at
effort that right now, but you know what I mean.
No, but if you look at after their bye, and like that's after their bye, by the way, is also throwing out the fact that they held Kansas City to 19 and 9 points, won that game at home against Kansas City, even throwing out those performances. After their bye, which was week 9, 22, 20, 12, the most they gave up was 22 outside of at Detroit when they got destroyed, 42-17. Every other game was 23. They gave up the most 23 the rest of that way until the Vegas game at the last week, which is kind of like a non-game anyway.
All right. That's the AFC West. Chiefs. Even if Mahomes got hurt for half the games, I think the Chiefs would still win with Carson Wentz.
Still win the division.
Carson Wentz throwing left-handed, doing crazy shit. They'd still win.
Diving into the end zone, getting helicoptered.
Carson Wentz is a lot of fun. Remember when he was like okay with the Colts and then he got COVID and was terrible?
Yeah. Remember after his first 2 seasons when he was supposed to be the next top 5 quarterback in the NFL and put him in the Hall of Fame?
In fairness to him, he was awesome until he got that knee injury.
True. And Justin Herbert was on the same path as after his first 2 years. Everybody put him in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but no one feels like Justin Herbert's really declined. It's like everything around him has declined. Like I don't think anyone really disputes Justin Herbert's skills. It really does feel like Carson Wentz fell off a cliff because he didn't have the best judgment anyway. Then the physical tools weren't there anymore either.
That is fair. I'll give you that one.
All right. TheAthletic.com. When does the draft kit drop?
July 23rd. A little earlier than last year.
All right. At Owen Kidd on Twitter. Should we do a mailbag show this year? Like in the off season?
Those are always fun. I think we get some interesting questions.
I think you would get interesting questions. I can just, you can give them to me and I can read them out. I don't know how much at this point, I don't know how big the Pat Mayo Experience audience is into season-long fantasy questions or dynasty questions. But if they are out there, send them our way. We'll make a list and we'll do a show about it.
Yeah. I just think we get some random ones too. Which, by the way, your MMA guy, that video AI, did you see how he turned into me towards the end? That was the creepiest thing ever.
It was weird, right?
Yeah. You turned and all of a sudden you looked like somebody smashed our faces together. You had a beard and everything.
And that's what AI will do to you. Code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy deposit match of up to $250. Smash the like. Go check out the other divisional preview shows. We'll be banging out each of the divisions. We'll have rankings coming soon, full betting preview, everything you need for football season. We're just catching up right now to get you caught up on everything before you need to start making some serious decisions of where to get your money down. All right, smash the like and sub to the channel while you're here, and check out the audio podcast as well under the Pat Mayo Experience. All information down in the description. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!